Versa best company.
Versa Business System.
It's a better
Versa Business System.
Versa Business System.
Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder, and CEO of Versa Business Systems, Shaheen Mazloom. We're here with Jennifer Kaplan today. She's the founder and CEO of Evolve, a PR firm based out in Arizona, but they work with companies all over the country of all types. So thanks for joining us today, Jennifer. Excited to dive into the conversation of PR and getting your brand out there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Look forward to sharing and talking.
Absolutely. So for those out there that don't know who you are, Jennifer, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and obviously your company Evolve.
Yeah, well, my mom would say I was born doing PR, leading up to even getting senior most talkative in high school. So it is something that's not work for me. It's kind of embodying of who I am. Went to Arizona State University, studied communications with an emphasis in public relations, grew up with a family of entrepreneurs. So at 30, started my own business. Nice. And been doing that for, I can't say that I'm revealing how old I am, but anyway, it's been over 20 years now and I love it. We've grown to be the largest PR firm in Arizona. Just hired our 29th person. And it's fun to get up every day and do what I do.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's nice being able to do what you love. It doesn't feel like work anymore. Right.
Yeah, I never thought that was going to be the case when I was like not a kid, but
right.
I thought it was going to be a sports agent. But this is where I landed, and it's fun.
Love it. So PR has obviously changed a lot over the last 5 years, especially. Right. I've been in business, this particular company, almost 9 years now, and even since I started this company, it's changed drastically, right? Like with AI, with TV, right? Everybody's streaming. And where would you say is probably, obviously it's going to depend on the industry type, but is there a PR, a specific type of PR that you think is underused by businesses nowadays?
Well, that's a great question. A lot of people want to do PR for backlinks and being able to get that search part.
Right.
And so while there is intention with what we're doing when we are in those situations, I feel like there's a big opportunity there for people that are like, I want to pop up when people Google or, search
right.
XYZ in my industry. And, PR is a big way to do that.
Yeah.
So, they may not have caught that segment on TV, but if that segment or, that link to that segment is online, or an article and all of those things that you amass, now when people are searching, your searchability goes up.
Yeah.
And so, and then also I tell people it's an asset. So again, if that whole mentality of people aren't reading a magazine or the newspaper, there's digital and online. Yeah, exactly. And the client can repurpose that. And a lot of the media now, they know that they're not watching TV as much. So a lot of the TV stations have email blasts that they send out with news of the day. Or I just saw our NBC affiliate out here post a story on their social media that they did air, but now it's getting repurposed on their social media. So I think that to what you said at the very beginning, it has changed a lot. It's not as traditional as it used to be.
Right.
But I think there's still a great opportunity for companies to tell their story and then use the tentacles that can come out from what we perceive as that traditional PR.
Right. Right. And so, you mentioned articles and digital assets. So, and I've heard different things. Do you think there's more value in the bigger name, like the Forbes, the entrepreneur.coms, the Fox versus your small local publications? Like we've done both. For example, Fox 54az.com, you know what I
Right,
mean, like
right, right.
a very specific town Fox station news article versus something being on Forbes.com or something like that. Is there value to having both, or do you think it's better to put that bigger investment into something more mainstream like a Forbes.com?
Yeah. Well, I noticed the Forbes behind you, and I recognize that your business isn't localized. So
Correct.
you're not looking for people to come to your restaurant on Valentine's and it's just the people in that community they're going to come eat at your restaurant.
Right.
Your business and your service is something that is scaled and applicable all over the country and I understand all over the world.
Yeah.
So in that case, a Forbes has a great impact and value to you. Now, if that local restaurant got a Forbes, for example, they could frame it and put it in
Right.
their entryway and people walk in. Again, it's still within that radius, though, for the most part, that are going to be patronizing their place. So
Right.
a lot, I think just coaching our clients on, a lot of them say, we want national because it's got this sexy allure.
Yeah.
And I'll say, do you have all the business that you could have here? You're
Right.
here, your
Right.
restaurant, your
Yeah.
doctor's office, your law firm, whatever it is here. So yes, I always do say perception is reality. Oh, you were in
Right.
Forbes, like I need to hire that guy.
Right.
But locally, I think that it doesn't reach out to the community the same way being in those hyper locals that are in the gym, that are at the
Agreed.
dry cleaner or the yogurt store or the doctor's office
Yeah.
on the table. So those people are going to be the ones that for local businesses that really want the local community.
Right.
Um, but also from a PR perspective, when clients hire us for national, it costs more. So if they're looking
Yeah.
at budget, I think that's another thing for business to consider. Again,
Mm,
with your business and the reach you could have, Forbes and national all day long is
right.
impactful to garnering, hopefully new business.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Now, we talked about TV, right? So TV has changed tremendously, right? It used to be, you had your 10 channels or whatever it was, or maybe even 4 or 5, right? And now and then it went from that to, cable with Xfinity and Verizon. And then now it's a lot of streaming, right? Like a lot of people just get their Roku TVs, right? And they download Apple TV and Prime and Paramount. And I've noticed I can't remember the name of the company, but there's a company that's largely advertised and they're like, you can target your niche and it's really cheap. And, you could really, you could do for $50 a day, you can have a commercial on TV that's, playing, in the commercial breaks of, the Paramount shows and all of that. What is your take on that style of TV commercials versus your standard, Monday Night Football, super expensive, you're paying thousands of dollars every time it airs. Are people seeing a pretty typical or a similar cost per client as with the old way of doing things, or is that kind of dropped quite a bit?
Definitely a similar correlation to what we were talking about with the Forbes versus,
Hmm.
for the local restaurant versus a business
Yeah.
like yours. The one thing I'll say is that the commercial during the Super Bowl obviously is a big deal
Well,
and gets
right,
a lot
right.
of the eyeballs. But when people do some of their paid shows, like you're talking about, maybe even some of those smaller networks, when the lower third says paid or sponsored, then the authenticity of that comes off a little bit different. a commercial, people figure they probably did pay for it.
Right.
But some of those other shows and networks will say that it's sponsored or paid, and then it takes away some of the impact. So they even say that PR, from an earned perspective, editorial has a
Right.
3.5 times greater impact than the paid,
Interesting.
because someone knows that people know that you paid for it. So
Right.
anyone could pay for that placement.
Yeah.
But if you're that thought leader or expert talking on a certain topic
Right.
and it doesn't connotate advertorial or paid,
Yeah.
it just comes across a
Oh,
little bit.
definitely a lot more authentic. Yeah, for sure. So is that a big part of what your company helps businesses do, is get more of that earned PR?
Exactly. Yeah,
Great.
exactly. So the storytelling, we tell people, if there are listeners, that are figuring out PR, and even if they're doing it on their own, and they can always call and we'll coach them in any way that they want, just for give advice. But, is to tell your story and make it educational, informational, something that is not salesy. And then
Right.
it falls really well into the earned part. When it's like
Right.
coming off too pushy and salesy,
Yeah.
the editorial earned side doesn't lean into that.
Right.
They say, well, why don't you just pay an ad and make it about buy, sell, sell.
Right.
So when it's more, something you're giving back to a listener or a viewer, it has a greater impact to the person listening or viewing, and the person on the show is more apt to say, you know what, this was great. I think, we got a lot out of that, versus,
Right.
and giving some tips and giving some nuggets of information versus, well, if you pay $19.99, you can, do this. They're like, no, that's not, go buy an ad. So,
Right.
and that's again where the ad comes off a little bit more salesy. Something on the earn side has a
Right.
little bit more authenticity too.
So let's talk about some examples of earned media. Like, are you talking about, being on your local TV station? Are you talking about, a magazine maybe reaching out and wanting to do an article on you? Like, what are some different examples of earned media? And, say you're a small company, you don't have much of a budget, like, how can those people, is it mostly starting with social media and trying to create some buzz online first? Or what does that look like as far as earned media for those that just don't have the budget to, hire a PR firm or something like that?
Well, I do want to say, and even though we don't do social media for our clients, everyone has to be doing social media. It's almost like back in the day was, do you have a website?
Right.
No, you're not legit.
Yeah.
So you need to be on social media, and obviously different industries are going to dictate maybe certain platforms
Where you should be, right?
Yeah, but if you don't have at least a LinkedIn or at least an Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, again, that your target demographic is, where they are, so they're listening, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice, because those are platforms you should be on. A good example of an earned media would be if you're watching maybe it's more so on a morning show on TV, and a chef is doing a cooking segment teaching you how to make the best tacos or the best pizza. And they're going to say, you know what, you want to reheat your oven to X amount of degrees. If you go to this degree, you might find to dry it out. Or they're really like giving you all the tips, and you're like, oh my gosh. All right. And you're writing it down, and then you're like, I'm not going to make this pizza.
Right.
I'm
going to go in there and I'm going to get it from their restaurant. Yeah, exactly.
Correct. And my husband knows that. I'm not going to be like, I'm making the pizza. I'm like, I saw this guy making pizza on TV. We're going in.
Yeah.
So that would be a perfect example of earned. There's a clear like education or like give back to the viewer.
Right.
They're not saying, come in today.
Right.
And we've
Come
got
in today.
our pizza.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're really genuinely giving the cooking tips.
Yeah.
But underlying, it's how many people are going to make the pizza. They're going to see the pizza and go, we need to come in and eat there.
Exactly.
And the same with a doctor.
But aren't a lot of those things also paid for? Like, I know, like, so I had I had one show. The first show I was ever on, it was an interview. It was in Boston or something, and I think I paid like $4 or $5 to be on there. And then another one, it was similar in Pennsylvania, and that was they reached out to me and they were looking for someone in my industry to share some things, and it was like right after COVID, of like what businesses can be doing to get back to normal now that
Yep,
COVID's
yep.
kind of died down, and so that was earned. But there's a lot, like how can people tell if it's earned or paid for in those scenarios? Because they're not like, this is sponsored by or paid for by.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. They're supposed to do that.
Okay, maybe they
If
did, and I
something,
just didn't even realize it.
yeah. So
Interesting.
there's usually, I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it. You might, now that I think about it, maybe they did. Maybe they were like, this segment is sponsored by Versa Business Systems.
And even if it wasn't sponsored by you, maybe a air conditioning company or
Right.
I don't know, a plumbing company
Right.
sponsors that spot and that's those
Right.
segments. So at some point, even if it's not in your interview,
Right.
before or after, they might say, and brought to you by Jen's Air Conditioning and Heating, servicing all your heating and cooling needs, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So if there's a paid element, they do have to call that out.
Interesting.
I believe it's even legal
Right.
legally they have to do that based on the rules and restrictions of oh my gosh, I just forgot FAA. What? No, that's
FTC,
oh my gosh,
Federal Trade Commission.
no. Oh my gosh, it's going to bug me. Hopefully I'll think of it before we finish our chat. But yeah, they're required to mention if something is paid.
If it was paid for, or if it was just earned.
FCC.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so what are, besides, getting out there on social media and maybe adding some of your local newscasters and things like that, what are some tips that you have for small to mid-sized businesses to, try and attract more of that earned media versus the paid media?
Yeah. I mean, there's information on all media websites, whether that's a print or an online or TV, where they've got their news desks and they've got, their contact information, even reaching out to certain reporters who, cover stories that are maybe in your industry that you've seen them do
Right.
all day long. I mean, they've got time to fill and air to fill and space to fill and all of
Right.
that. So getting that content is, I mean, I always tell people you could do it yourself. You may not have the relationship of a 20-year PR person.
Right.
If you've got the right hook and, story, they're always looking for stuff. So
Right.
one is that. The other thing that's not necessarily just in the PR space, but something that we, encourage and suggest to our clients is getting involved in the community.
Right.
Maybe sit on a board, maybe go to a networking event, some way to maybe get involved to bring some branding and awareness to yourself, to your company.
Right.
There are other ways, I think that of that as PR, not in obviously in the media sense,
Right.
but you never know who you're going to meet and network with that knows even someone else that'll help your business grow. So I feel like getting involved in the community when and where people can is also really beneficial for their brand.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So there's obviously a lot of changes that have happened with AI, right? Anybody can go on ChatGPT or Claude or whatever and say, hey, make me a press release for my business that does this, this, and this, right? And I'm sure there's you can buy a list of, 1,000 emails to send that out to, and you'll probably get published in a few places, right?
Yeah.
What is, I mean, what kind of cost are people looking at now Say I'm a super small business. I don't have a huge budget. I want to start doing some PR. Is this thousands of dollars that we're going to have to start investing just to kind of, dip our toe in the water, or has it, is it really relative to, the amount of PR they want to start with?
Yeah. No, good thing to bring up. The investment side of it, because it can be either overwhelming for a small business when,
Yeah,
or
because a
any.
lot of times you just don't make the call because you're like, oh, I probably can't afford that,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Well, to the first thing you said about whether it is AI or a family friend or whatever, writing a press release, there is the wire. And the wire I call spray and pray,
Yeah.
because it just goes out. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not intentional.
Right.
Like you're not able to really target your local TV or your local outlets or even the Today Show or whatever. It's just
Yeah.
kind of goes out to all these websites. But people can do that. And as far as the cost for a wire, it could vary from, $100 to thousands of dollars.
Right.
And the PR as well. I mean, it's not going to be hundreds of dollars, but, it might be in the lower thousands for all of the reach, to
Right.
not just TV or not just radio. You can buy an ad in a magazine. It could cost you thousands of dollars to place an ad. And you're in that one magazine, that one outlet, one time,
Right.
one month,
That's it.
versus paying that and having a firm, put you out to the masses in your
Yeah.
local. National does add another layer,
Right.
when you're talking about pitching the Today Show or Good Morning America or
Right.
Fox and things like that. But depending on the business, I mean, we have a bourbon company client that was on, I think it's when they were on Fox News nationally. I mean, sold out, can't keep it,
Right.
the product in. So there is a correlation, obviously.
Yeah.
You don't want to crash and burn, and go too above your head and you hit
Exactly.
now you can't fulfill. They were able to fulfill it, but
That's awesome.
I think people need to be aware of, the reach and the impact national can also have.
Right.
And be prepared, because that can devastate your brand
Right.
if you're not ready. So yeah, I think that, a good entry point for someone would be to think about, that lower thousands all the way up, depending on
Right.
their needs and the scale. The other thing is how many moving parts to the business. We have this department and this thing, and we want to push 50 widgets out. Or, you know what? It's just, we do one thing, we sell cupcakes, and that's all we do. Or are you a full,
Right.
bakery? That's a lot more. So
Right.
I think it's worth, I mean, I don't know what other people do, but I know for us, having the conversation and talking to people,
Yeah.
I think could help their business just understand if there's an opportunity.
Right. Definitely. I mean, it's not, everything's not for everyone and for every business, right? So I think PR, is probably vital to most businesses, especially on the branding side of things. But also, as you mentioned early on, SEO, right? The backlinks and all that stuff. The more places your business is and the more of those backlinks you have, the greater chance you have of showing up at the top of Google when people are searching for companies like yours and, and stuff like that. It gives you that, that recognition and that validation, right? You mentioned the Today Show. I'm curious. So how many businesses have you helped over the last 20 years actually get on like a big show like the Today Show or Fox, or have you like basically lost count at this point?
I mean, at this point, yeah, we've had nonprofits, we've had this bourbon. Sometimes I even forget the clients that we have.
Right.
And it's not, I mean, there's the shows, but it's also Forbes and Business Insider and
Right.
BuzzFeed. And sometimes it's also influencers. That's another thing that we work with our clients on, which I know we didn't talk too much about, but
Yeah.
influencers are, when given the right guardrails, we're going to
Right.
give you this in exchange. We want that. could be really powerful to a business as well.
Right.
Is reaching out and engaging with influencers,
Right.
and seeing what their true engagement is. That's something we've changed in the last year or two. We invested in a
Yeah.
software that allows us to see their actual engagement.
Very cool.
So
Yeah, because that's like some of the stuff on social media is like smoke and mirrors, right?
yeah,
Like I had one video that ended up getting like 35 million views. And so my
oh my gosh,
followers skyrocketed, right? So I think we're at like, I don't know, 90,000 followers. But our average video doesn't get, thousands and thousands of, interactions, right? We get a few hundred, with each. But normally when you see a company that has 80 to 100,000 followers, they're getting thousands of interactions on every post, right? So it's super important to really know what's going on with that page and that person, right? What's the actual interaction? Because just because they have 2 million followers doesn't mean, one, that they're real followers, right? Like sometimes you dive into some of those pages and most of the people that's following them have like 2 or 3 pictures. They're not,
yeah,
they're bots, right?
yeah,
Because you can pay somebody in India, $500 to add 20,000 followers nowadays.
totally.
So that's awesome. So you guys have the ability to be able to see what they're actually doing as far as interaction on social media. Is that like a specific source or like
Yep.
multiple?
No, there's a software called Hype Auditor, and we can look up anyone and see their engagement. And of course, it can
Very cool.
change.
Right.
Today I could have X amount of engagement, and in 6 months or a year, it could go up or down.
Right.
So, we are looking and monitoring that on a regular basis. But I think that's just as important because we tell our clients, oh, you should do influencers and blah, blah, blah. And they
Yeah.
do stuff and they're like, that did nothing for us.
Right.
Oh, well, it says they have 90,000 followers.
Right.
Sometimes the person with 19,000 followers has a higher
Has a
engagement
bigger impact. Yeah.
for
Yep.
sure. We say micro influencers,
Yeah.
they're sometimes even better.
Yeah.
If that engagement is not as high for a 90,000 follower,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So we got smart on that a couple years ago
Love that.
because we were seeing everyone's an influencer and
Yeah.
everyone's got X amount of followers, and
Right.
it wasn't benefiting our client at the end of the day.
Right.
And we approach the influencers the same way we do the media, which is from an earned perspective. So some
Right.
we want paid, but we at least like to offer either a trade or a service or a product
Right.
in exchange for them posting and sharing. So
Very cool.
our clients aren't necessarily incurring another cost.
Right.
After paying us, we want to get them all the media, we want to get them all the influencers and do all the things.
Right. So the goal when a client comes to you guys is to get them as much earned media as possible. So that way there's no additional cost on besides whatever. Is it a consulting fee or how do you guys charge your clients?
Yeah, basically it's just month to month.
Okay.
We do
Awesome.
projects, but if the project goes more than 4 to 6 weeks, it's month to month. It's the same thing. Like
Right.
even if someone's like, yeah, we'll hire you for I think like 3 months. I'm like,
Right.
you can stop in a day, a week, a month, a
Right.
year. There's no
Love that.
upfront. There's no 30-day
Right.
out.
That's the
I
thing.
think
Like people don't really, when you have a good product and you actually do what you say you're going to do and you actually help people, you don't need to do a 12-month or 24-month or 6-month or whatever contract there is. I always tell people, I'm like, if somebody is requiring a contract from you, run away, right? Because there should be no reason for them to require that other than the fact they need to make sure they make certain amount of money, right? Because you're not going to leave someone if they're doing a good job for you. You're just not. It doesn't happen.
totally. And the only thing I've seen, at least in my industry, I mean, usually there's some sort of outs when people have contracts in
Right.
my industry.
Oh, yeah, for
They
sure.
always have a 30-day
Yeah.
out. And I'm like, what is that last 30 days going to do? Rather than if you're making the decision, you're like, you know what, let's go with Evolve. We can just
Right.
get in and we can get out whenever we want versus
Yeah.
This one I got to pay another month. What if we're not happy? What
Right.
if we run low on our budget? What if, we're seasonal and we don't need them or
Exactly.
whatever it is? I
Yeah.
just don't want someone to feel
Trapped.
bound.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. And
Yeah. I
I
love that.
honestly believe that's helped us in our grow our business.
I bet. I bet. Yeah.
We've
I mean,
got
it's
very
just all about just
rudimentary.
doing the right thing, right? Like, when you focus on doing the right thing and helping people and you're doing what you love, it's easy, right? It just comes naturally.
Well, I'll tell you what my mom said to me years ago. We were looking at social media and we actually did it for 3 years.
Mhm.
Um, and, but this was about 5, 6 years ago. And she could tell I was just like, I'm not loving it.
Right.
And our phone wasn't ringing for it. It's ringing for PR.
Right.
The social was like an added value.
Right.
So she said to me, get rich in your niche. And what you just said totally resonated with that saying. So when there's the Cheesecake Factory menu, it's like,
Yeah.
well, yes, I know I can get a salad.
I
You can
don't
get
go there because I hate their menu. Not because I hate their food. I cannot stand their menu because I never know. Like, I want 100 things. It's
It's
annoying.
too much. Right.
Yeah.
And if you want pasta, you're probably going to an Italian restaurant. And if you want a salad, you're probably going to go to a lighter fare
Yeah.
kind of place. And so I feel like your niche is really, where you can elevate your brand at the end of the
Yeah.
day, and
Yeah.
like you said, kind of be good at that. Let people know you
Yep.
for that. And that's what we've done.
Yeah. It's funny you brought up Cheesecake Factory because I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. Like Cheesecake Factory, because their menu's so big, they have something for everyone, right?
Yes.
Like if you're taking your whole family or your whole company out to dinner, absolutely great because everybody's going to find something they like, right? But they don't push that, right? They're not pushing parties and events and
No.
family gatherings. They're not advertising the one thing that they're good at, which is this huge variety of a menu.
Yeah.
It's
You're
mind
right.
blowing to me.
You're right.
It's
From a marketing
crazy.
perspective, they could
Yeah.
really play that up.
Right. They could
And
hone in on that and
yeah,
crush it. And
yeah,
crush it. Yeah,
I
it's
agree.
crazy. But so Jennifer, most of our guests have something that they give out to everybody. Before we started talking, you had mentioned that you guys don't charge anything for your consulting. If somebody wants to call in and just kind of chat about, what they've got going on, so you can maybe give them advice, point them in the right direction, or see if it's the right fit for you guys at Evolve to be able to help them with their PR. How do they go about getting in touch with you, or what link should we put in the description so they can take advantage of that?
Well, thank you for that. And yes, absolutely. Whether it's inquiring about services or literally just to bounce things off and, ask questions, I'm more than happy to do any of that.
Awesome.
I would say our website's the best because there's contact us and links to the social pages and all of that. So our website is Evolve PR and spelled out and marketing.com.
Awesome.
So
Okay.
all the info's there.
Great. I will make sure to include that in the description so they can just click on there and get right to that. Last before we're done here today, if there's one thing that you could suggest to businesses to stop doing when it comes to PR and marketing, what would you say that one thing is that's just doesn't really work anymore?
That's a great question. Before you said that doesn't work anymore, I was going to answer it differently, but then when you said that doesn't work anymore, but I do want to say crisis communication is what people shouldn't do on their own. Should
Okay.
not try and figure that out on their own. If you don't have a PR firm, that's okay.
Right.
If you're in a crisis situation, you definitely want to consult or engage with someone on the PR side. So,
Now, crisis as far as like reputations under fire, or
It could be anything. It could be people posting on your social negative
Okay. Right.
reviews or
Yeah, like
negative
something that
whatever.
you said something you shouldn't have, and now you're under fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
It could be a staff or a client or anyone going
Right.
to the news media and wanting
Right.
to make a claim about something about a
Right.
business.
I gotcha.
It could be anything.
Yeah. Stop
But
trying to handle that on your own
correct. But you added that they should
anymore.
not anymore. So not that one. Don't do that one. Um, Gosh, that's a great, it's ever changing. And I feel like, what could people be doing PR wise? I think, something that I talk about is perception is reality. I
Right.
think that just from a PR perspective, if you're representing your company or your brand, I feel like people need to be aware of people always watching and
Right.
seeing them.
Oh yeah.
They're with technology, people are going to video something, take a photo of something. I would say just think about your steps in regards to it being PRable. So, yeah, your actions and what you say,
Right.
it's changed. I mean, we were using
Definitely.
beepers and or pagers and
Yeah.
payphones 20-ish years ago, 30 years ago. And now it's like I can capture you, see you,
Yeah.
all the things.
Everything. You
I
can run
think,
your whole company from a cell phone nowadays. It's wild.
but it can destroy people. And
A
so I
hundred
think
percent.
that people
One of the
should,
greatest pieces of advice that I got when I first started my company was in regards to social media. And this guy, he was a sales rep, and he said something somebody told me early on was, if you think somebody could be offended by it, don't post it. So before you post anything at all, ask if one person could be offended by what you're about to post. Don't post it. Right?
and
You
we could
don't
do a
have
whole
to
other
post everything.
podcast about that. I mean, it's such
Yeah.
a
Oh, we
polarizing
could.
time.
Oh yeah.
I say vent to your family, vent behind closed doors,
Yeah.
vent to whomever is safe,
Yeah.
friends, but
Yeah.
taking to the masses. So same thing that I'm, in a different scenario
Yeah.
is just being aware all the time.
Yeah. When you're out and about in public, when you're posting, it's just like what was it, Michael Jordan, right? Did you see that video that came out recently? Right, he's
I
tugging
did.
on the kids'
Yep.
shorts, right? And then he scrolled on the back of his leg. But you know, I've done similar things to my nephews, right? Smacking them on the butt, and if you don't know that person, right? That's obviously that's weird, that's whatever. But anything could be taken out of, like you said, perception is reality, right? And people will assume because they don't know, right? Like they don't know the relationship. Like that kid didn't seem bothered, right? He seemed to
Right.
know Mike, but it's like that stuff doesn't matter, right? Like you got to be really, and I'm sure he gets a lot of coaching on, how to
Oh,
conduct himself and all that stuff, so it's just wild that, somebody like that has all these advisors and all this coaching and, everything that's going on with, Epstein and all the things. It's like just bad timing, dude. Bad timing.
exactly. And that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like it's a polarizing time, not just politically,
Yeah.
with all the things and the fact that people can just take to their devices so quickly and photos and videos and posts and
Yeah.
don't do
And
it.
it's so quick for stuff to just go viral to the masses. And it's very hard to reel it back in, right? Like once that stuff's out there and it's, you've got 100,000 plus shares, it's not going to stop.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
Agree.
it's wild.
hard to unravel, but that was a great question too.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
I know it's pretty early there. We're coming up on the end of the day over here. So enjoy the rest of your day, and can't wait to chat with you soon and see what's changed.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.